Welcome back to the channel. I've got some good feedback about the last book that I reviewed, so thanks for that. Today I wanted to talk about, I've wanted to talk about this book for a little while now, but I wanted to kind of renew my acquaintanceship with it, if you will. The thing is that I read this book. Randall Munroe, he is as it says here, the creator of XKCD. If you are unfamiliar with XKCD, it's a webcomic, and Randall Munroe was an engineer for NASA, and so a lot of what he does in XKCD are math jokes, geek science jokes, stuff like that, and he does it really well. The illustrations are very simple. They're very much stick figures, but if you thought that math and science couldn't be funny, read this book. It's great. So I think I'm not entirely sure how this came about, but I think that on XKCD on his website, that he allows people to ask just these absurd hypothetical questions. If you look at the cover here, you can see somebody lowering a T-Rex into the Sarlacc pit. Unfortunately, that particular absurd question is not answered in this book. Like, what would happen if you lowered a T-Rex into the Sarlacc pit? But a lot of what is in the book is incredibly interesting. So, if you've ever had one of those questions that, what would happen if, and I know that a lot of people have those and everything, but this guy actually goes through and tries to scientifically answer those questions. And he doesn't do it in such a way that you cannot understand the answer. He does it in such a way that he's like, okay, because of this property of this law of science, or this particular, for instance, one of the first things he answers, one of the first questions in the book that he answers is, what would happen if the Earth suddenly stopped spinning, but the atmosphere kept going at the same rate of speed that it's going before the Earth stopped? And so he goes through and he talks about, like, the properties of air moving at thousands of miles per hour, and he talks about it's kind of funny. He has this really awesome map that that basically shows, like, the most devastation that's going to happen is going to happen in this section of the map. That doesn't mean that these other sections are left out. They're just not hit as hard. The other thing is, these all came from readers. So he actually attributes the question to the person who asked maybe not every person who asked it, but the person who asked him that question. And like I said, he's got diagrams and scientific formulas, and the whole of the book is set up, as I said, in such a way that you can see the humor behind the question, even if the question is, like, horrific. Like, what about swimming in water that has been used to cool fuel rods for a nuclear reactor? Like, what would happen to you if you were in that situation? And so it has his little XKCD drawings in there as well. He also has some in there that are, let's see how best to put it. He calls them weird and worrying questions. Let me see what he doesn't answer these questions, but he showcases them. He says, I got this question from, and says who the person that gave the question was. Would it be possible to get your teeth to such a cold temperature that they would shatter upon drinking a hot cup of coffee? He doesn't answer the question, but he's like, this was one of the questions that I got. This is really, really weird. So let's see. In this particular book, he answers questions like as I said, with the global windstorm, what would happen if everything got, if the Earth stopped spinning but the atmosphere retained its speed? What would happen if you tried to hit a baseball pitched at 90% of the speed of light? There's another one. I said, what if you took a swim in a typical spent nuclear fuel pool? Assume that when you travel back in time, you end up at the same spot on Earth's surface. At least that's how it worked in Back to the Future. So, what would it be like if you traveled back in time, starting in Times Square, New York, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1 million years, 1 billion years? What about forward in time, 1 million years? What if everyone actually had only one soulmate, a random person somewhere in the world? What if every person on Earth aimed a laser pointer at the moon at the same time? Would it change color? What would happen if you made a periodic table out of cube-shaped bricks, where each brick was made of the corresponding element? Let's see. What would happen if everyone on Earth stood as close to each other as they could and jumped, everyone landing on the ground at the same time? That was a question that was posed apparently by a lot of people. What would happen if you were to gather a mole, which is a unit of measurement of moles, the small furry critter, in one place? What would happen if a hairdryer with continuous power were turned on and put in an airtight 1 by 1 by 1 meter box? If every human somehow simply disappeared from the face of the Earth, how long would it be before the last artificial light source would go out? So, as I said, it's a very interesting book because it has all of these what if questions about what would happen if, and just some bizarre off the wall thinking. But he doesn't take these questions as jokes. He takes them seriously and he investigates each one. So you find out about, fluid dynamics and gravitational pull and all this other stuff that is based in scientific measurements, theory, not just theory, but scientific practice. So he goes into that. So there's a lot of information in the book, and it's very interesting. But then he applies his XKCD twist, and so he is not just telling you what would happen in the event of one of these things actually occurring, but he also has a humorous twist to it. As I said, with what would happen if the Earth stopped spinning but the air kept going at its current rate of speed. What would happen in that instance? And as I said, he had a map that was like, this part would be, devastated, and this part of the map not as much, but still devastated. You know, see, so as I said, it's got humor, and but it's addressing very, very interesting topics. So if you're interested in science, even if you're not interested in science, if you're interested in humor, you might enjoy this book. As I said, the fact that a lot of people come out of science and think it can't be funny, this book proves you wrong. It really does, because this is science, and it's based in science fact as much as he can, because there are certain times when there might be some conjecture, but it's guesswork that's based in scientific fact. So this thing hasn't happened yet, but based on X, Y, and Z that we have proved and we know works, the outcome would most likely be this. And so, as I said, it's humorous, informational, entertaining. It's a great read. So if you have read What If, let me know. Let me know what your take on it was. Like, subscribe, comment down below, put on the bell icon so you get notified when I make these videos. And if you've read What If 2, I'm planning to read What If 2. I haven't read it yet, but I thoroughly enjoyed What If, so I plan on reading What If 2. There is a second book in the series. There might be a third. I'd have to go check. I know there's What If, and What If 2, but anyway, I plan on reading that. Highly enjoyable, and until next time, enjoy what you're reading.